Hey guys, if you're shopping for knives and gear, make sure you check out the description of the video you're watching right now for a link to my Amazon store where I've compiled some of the very best items available, including some of my own personal recommendations. Thanks! What's going on, YouTube? Middle Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife overview to share with you guys. This is the Medford Knife and Tool Praetorian Genesis tie. This is an awesome Medford knife. This is, so just so you guys know, like you guys probably know this, I'm a huge Medford fan. This knife was sent to me along with many other amazing Medford knives by Mr. Dirk Warning on YouTube. Please subscribe to Dirk Warning. It's because of him that I'm able to bring you this content, and his content is really, really cool. He's got a lot of knives that you won't find anywhere else on YouTube, so give him a sub. I say overview because this is not a Medford knife that you can go out and buy. You know, this is part of the Praetorian line, and there are certain Praetorians that are much more unobtainable and not even, you know, listed initially on the Medford website, and this is one of those knives. It's my understanding that he purchased this knife. Let's get this out of the way right off the bat. You know, first up, there will definitely be links for Medford knives that you can buy down in the description, but this knife was purchased by Mr. Dirk Warning. You can see there his initials on the pocket clip. As part of a set, he actually purchased a Medford Praetorian micro tie, a Medford Praetorian Genesis tie, which is the one you're seeing here, and a Medford Praetorian tie full size, all with the exact same configuration, this sort of bronze, zigzaggy titanium texturing, and then the PVD coated, looks like S35 VN blade. He purchased them as part of a set, and the set totaled out at $5,000. He let me know that this knife in particular is a $1,500 knife. Now, the standard version of the Genesis G or Genesis T don't cost nearly as much. Obviously, this is a super expensive knife. There's not a lot of people who are going to be like, you know, beating down a door to get this thing, unless you're a huge Medford fan like Mr. Dirk Warning. And in any case, they're not something you can rush out and buy anyway. It's my understanding that these are special order items, and every now and then they pop up on, you know, retailer sites. But this is going to be more of a show and tell because of how expensive it is, right? I'm not going to be, you know, suggesting that people rush out and buy this. You know, it's interesting. You know, it's not something that's super available. And I already reviewed this readily available size of knife. You know, the Praetorian Genesis T has a full review, and you can actually pick that one up if you want to. So anyways, let's go ahead and, oh, of course, thanks so much to my generous patrons who are supporting me. If you'd like to check out my Patreon, get your hands on some cool stickers, there is, of course, a link down in the description. Overall length of the Praetorian Genesis tie is the same as the T, coming in at about 7.75 inches overall, 8 if you count the glass breaker. Blade length is coming in at something like 3.4, and cutting edge is coming in at something like 3 1/4. This size of Praetorian in thinner dimensions is actually the one that I prefer. If I was going to carry a Praetorian, it would probably be a Genesis T. The tie is substantially thicker. I'm not going to put my calipers on this, but the blade stock is 1/4 inch, or I think it's actually 0.26, and then the titanium is 3/16 on either side. Now, I would show it against the T, but as you guys know, that went back to Dirk Warning because he did a giveaway on it. I do have a very strange version of the Praetorian Genesis here, and this is called the F&F, or Friends and Family version. This is definitely not a version that is available to everybody. I'm fortunate enough to be handling it. This has the 3/16 titanium, but it has the thinner blade at 190 thousandths. The T has thinner yet titanium, and see, the titanium on the F&F is the same thickness as the thickness on the tie, right? So the T has 125 thousandths titanium, which is thinner than this, but it has this thick of blade. And rest assured, guys, it is still a monstrously big knife, you know, even in the thinner dimensions. That's the one that I would recommend. And I know you guys are like, I can't pay attention to what you're saying right now because this is blowing my mind. Yeah, this is a very special version of the Praetorian Genesis. This is not something that's common. You're not going to see blades this vibrant. This is a CPM D2 blade with probably the most insane Vulcan finish that I've ever seen, and then it has a polished titanium frame with some crazy anodization going on there. So that's really interesting. I just wanted to show that one off. It doesn't make sense for me to do a unique video on this guy because it's kind of been used as a comparison knife, and it's so far out of what is generally obtainable by the public. I think this is a knife that's meant for internal people who work for Medford Knives and have the option to purchase this. And it's my understanding that Dirk acquired that one on the secondary market, which is probably your only hope there. So I have no idea where the price is going to be like on that guy. I will show this up against the Medford Praetorian tie, which is also a knife that is not, something that you can usually pick up on a retailer. It is the exact same thickness, but it is shorter. And this is probably the thickest, chunkiest knife that Medford Knife and Tool makes in terms of it being so small. I mean, obviously the same maximum thickness, but as far as like, the overall length there, it's just much, much shorter. So anyways, very interesting. That knife will also get its own video, much in the same style as this guy. We'll go ahead and do some size comparisons just because we normally do that. So up against the Ontario Rat Model 1, the Rat 1 is coming in at 8.6 inches overall. So you can see there, despite it being shorter, it is certainly not a small knife. How about up against the Spyderco PM2? PM2 is coming in at 8.3 inches overall. How about up against the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue? Ritter Hogue coming in at 8 inches overall. And last but not least, the Spyderco Para 3. Spyderco Para 3 is coming in at 7.25 inches overall. How's the action on this guy? Well, like other Medfords, it's running on phosphor bronze, and it has that same sort of glassy, smooth action. You absolutely can manipulate this knife with one hand, but they come tight, and I can tell this guy is very new. It is in the process of breaking in, so it's not one that can be readily flicked out yet, but as you guys have probably seen from other YouTube videos, these guys do break in a way that allows you to kind of flick them out. In my experience, it's actually a lot more satisfying to simply disengage or do sort of a pinch opening and just use that fuller and deploy it. It feels extremely similar to every other Medford knife that I've ever handled. It's very satisfying. It locks up harder than any knife that I have ever felt. Yes, even triad lock knives. It just has that bank vault-like sort of rods and bars and, everything locking into place. It just feels like that. If you guys are imagining how this feels in hand, how it feels to lock up, this is one of very few knives where just me watching, originally seeing the Praetorian on Jim Skelton's channel and trying to imagine how this knife feels locking up. It's one of the only times that I have ever, finally handled the knife and thought, that feels exactly like it looks. It really does. This is a big beast of a knife. So let's see here. We can't do the hardware check. Carry profile, guys. I mean, here's the thing. This thing is just insanely thick. You guys, if you don't know, I used to own a Medford Praetorian tie full size, so even bigger, not thicker, but longer and taller than this guy. And this is like insane thick. If you really, really want to carry this knife, it is certainly something that will take some time adapting to. Obviously, this is not a knife that you carry in basketball shorts or skinny jeans. You're going to need big pants. You're going to need a lot of room in the pocket, right? I would not recommend carrying anything else if you're really going to carry this. And I know people are pointing out right now, surely nobody's actually carrying these things. Yeah, believe it or not, there are a few people who actually do carry and use Praetorians of this size. Even with this being the medium one, it is just above and beyond in terms of, anything that's remotely close to, pocket friendly. I mean, just being honest there. But I mean, you guys, I like overbuilt knives. I think overbuilt knives are cool, and I just enjoy them for the interesting objects that they are. If you guys haven't seen it, because I know people are pointing out, well, that's great, it's big and overbuilt, but can it even cut? Yeah, actually, if you watch that video where the video is titled, What's So Great About Medford Knives? It's in my discussion and controversy playlist. I actually did slice paper with the micro tie, this guy, and the Medford Midi Marauder, and they slice just fine. These knives are sharp. The problem is that if you're going to be using them for continuous cutting, passing it through material, over and over and over again, it's going to slow you down because it's coming up to this massive, massive wedge, right? Or this massive, thickness, this flat right here. And that's not going to readily continuously push through material. But then again, that's not necessarily what this knife was designed to do. This knife was designed to be kind of an all-purpose, like, if you really have to use it for something crazy, go ahead and use it. And I know the warranty's like, but it says don't do that. I think you guys get the idea here. This knife is capable of doing a lot of things. For a folding knife, a fixed blade is probably a better item in most circumstances that would call for using an object like this outside of the realm of normal for a knife. But is it capable? Is the blade durable, right? Is it built correctly? Yes, I have discussed this into the ground. I don't feel the need to discuss it further here. Let's go ahead and weigh it, because I'm sure you guys want to know. So inside here, there is no milling. The blade is thick. The blade is heavy. Everything is huge. Oh my gosh. 9.21 ounces. This is simply too heavy, too big for me to create any kind of justification around it. You guys know I kind of dance around anything that's like over 5 ounces and all the way up to like 7 ounces. I kind of dance around the justifications there because I like bigger knives. Yeah, this is really big and really heavy. There's going to be very few people who actually decide to carry and use this knife. And those who do, they're going to go through a pretty lengthy adaptation process. So anyways, let's go ahead and take a look at this thing. This is beautiful. To me, this is very aesthetically pleasing. After handling this one, I would have a hard time. If I was going to order a Praetorian, Dirk, if you're watching, I would have a hard time not ordering it in this configuration now, having seen it. We have this dark bronze. I know it's appearing light on camera. That's because of the diffuser film that's out here. But it's dark bronze, and then we've got these nice sort of zigzaggy, this milling pattern that's in here, and it's really nice. Everything out here is knocked down. It's a little bit sharp in some places, but again, you know, we're in custom knife territory here. In fact, the difference between this and a full custom knife is so marginal. We've got, I believe, the hand ground version of this blade. We have the full titanium hardware. We've got excess hand milling that's done on the frame. I mean, there are very few parts of this knife are you know, fully machine made. So we're in that. I think Greg Medford actually calls this custom tech. He might actually call everything from Medford Knives custom tech, but this is on the much higher, very nearly full custom Medford knife, you know, it's in that territory. And that's part of where the extra, because I know a lot of you guys flinched at that price tag. $1,500! I know, but listen, if this knife were like in plentiful supply and they were on all over on every retailer, you know, then I might question that a little bit more, but they don't make a lot of these. They make very, very few of these, and they're special order items, right? So they are specifically intended for people seeking this kind of thing out, and there is a little bit more that goes into one of these knives. Now, a Praetorian Genesis tie doesn't start out, to my knowledge, at $1,500. I want to say it probably starts out at about $1,200, and then depending what options you add to it, like in this case, the hardware marked as TI, you can see right there, all the hardware, everything is titanium. So in that situation, yeah, you're going to pay a little bit more. Just realize I'm getting my fingerprints all over Dirk's pocket clip. Sorry about that. There we go. Yeah, I mean, that's this knife has some extra embellishments. It's also got a completely PVD coated S35VN blade. That's about as stainless as or stain resistant as a blade as you can get from Medford Knives. That PVD coating is ridiculously durable, and as you guys know, S35VN is stainless. These do, of course, come in, I believe it's optional, CPM D2. It is CPM D2. I say that on every single Medford video. It is not ingot form D2. It is CPM D2. That is a completely different monster than regular D2. It is not the same thing that you see on an Ontario Rat for $40 on Amazon. Just trying to clear that up as much as I possibly can. And then, of course, you have the option for 3V, which probably makes the most sense in this geometry. You have a flat that carries out about, the PVD coating is so like nice and shiny. It bothers me when I get the fingerprints on it. And it is black in person. Like you guys are seeing like bronze hues. That's the oil from my hands showing up on camera because I can't stop touching it. The flat carries out about 90 to 95% of the blade. That tip is not going to break. These are hollow ground up front and then flat ground at the end. That is about as durable a tip as you could possibly imagine. I think you can get these in drop point as well, in which case it's fully hollow ground all the way out to the end. In any case, yeah, it is, you know, honestly, it's surprisingly thin down at the edge, but it's still, I mean, for a knife that is this thick, right? It is thinner behind the edge than I thought it would be, but it is still very, very thick behind the edge. This is not a knife that you're going to want to, you know, if you're at a picnic and you got to carve up an apple, not an apple knife. Definitely not. There is a lot of heft and mass to the blade, though, so if you're a soldier or you're in a situation where you have no choice but to use the knife in a crazy scenario, despite what the warranty says, this knife is very, very capable. It is heavy, but it could theoretically be used as a small shovel, as a pry bar, as a small hatchet, right? It is very, very multi-purpose. And even though it does weigh 9 ounces, if you could imagine all the different tools somebody or objects somebody like that might be carrying, right? This might be more or less beneficial in a situation like that. Then again, I know that the general idea, and I'm not in the military, but I know that the idea is to maximize utilitarian benefit and reduce weight as much as possible, you know, respectively, right? You're trying to get the right balance there. So maybe this isn't the best thing for that. I don't know. I'm not a soldier, so I can't speak to that, but I can see in some situations where if this is what you had on you and you needed something that could do a lot of different things and withstand all of that, you know, all that chaos, yeah, this is going to do it. I've talked about lock strength. I've talked about the external stops, all that in the Medford video, the What's So Great About Medford Knives video. You can check it out there if you feel like objecting. It's perfectly fine. I love how the black hardware looks on this. I am a big fan here recently of black hardware, and it just looks awesome. Glass breakers PVD coated. This is the newer style clip that mimics more so the specialized clip that comes on the full-size Praetorian tie. I actually think that this clip is probably better than the one on the tie. Truthfully, this knife does slip in and out of the pocket easily. And the reason I know that is because my Praetorian T had the exact same clip, no problem. It's crazy. There's a lot of, like, you know, pretty jagged, pretty aggressive areas, right, that are intended to catch your finger if you're wearing gloves, which is definitely what you'd want on your hands if you're going to use this knife, right? This is an outdoor, hard work, you know, ultra beastly hard use tool, right? You're going to be wearing gloves, or you're going to want to be, right? But that being the case, yeah, it actually does slip in and out of the pocket pretty easily. And the maximum height on this guy, crazy enough, is really not that much taller than the PM2. It's just a little bit taller. So it is a big object, it's a thick object, wide object. It's going to take a lot of room up in your pocket. You're not going to want to be carrying anything else, but does it actually fit in a normal pocket? Yeah, it does. It's not until you get up to the T or tie size that pocket size, like normal pocket size, starts to be overcome by the massiveness of this knife. So yeah, I'll give it that. Lots of surface contact on the titanium lock face. This is locking up at about 25%, which is very normal for a Medford knife. It is perfectly centered. That is the case. And surprise, it locks up absolutely solid. No play up, down, left, or right. This is just absolutely solid. Everybody knows what a Praetorian looks like. These are massively popular both because people either like or dislike it in extreme fashions. It is a very polarizing design, and that polarization is met by further polarization with Greg Medford himself. Me personally, I've had nothing but positive experiences with Greg Medford. I've also watched a lot of his videos. I've listened to him talk, right? The political thing, out the window. Don't even bring it up. I'm sorry. You guys will never ever know what my political views are on this channel because I don't talk about this stuff and I don't like to create, I'm not a platform for that, right? So whatever. But I do understand exactly how these knives are made. I've gone through and watched his videos. I've seen the tour of his factory. I've kept updated with them. I like what they do, and I can understand how they arrive at some of their prices. Are these knives expensive? Yeah, they're freaking crazy expensive. There's not a lot of people who are like, hey, I've got $1,500 lying around. What should I buy? A Praetorian Genesis tie? Yeah, that sounds great. I mean, obviously, guys, obviously, but people do buy these. They definitely do. And if you do decide you're going to spend the money on something like this, are you getting a quality item? Are you getting an item that's well made, that's sharpened and created by somebody who knows what they're doing? Absolutely, 100% you are. Absolutely. There is a lot of time and effort that goes into these, and these are not slapped together, right? That is not how these are made. These are super high-end American-made knives that are partially handmade. And yeah, Greg is very open about what goes on in his shop, who's touching these knives, you know, all the different processes. They have the Medford University thing on the website, which I urge you guys to go check out. Really cool. I just like Praetorians. Expect to see more Medford knives on this channel. I'm a big Medford fan, and much like, you know, Hinderer knives, Microtech knives, I'm a big fan. So you're going to see more on this channel, and this one is just freaking amazing. It's absolutely, absolutely cool, man. That's really just what this is. It's just an item of awe. I think that's pretty much all I can say about this knife. If you guys enjoyed this, I mean, this was basically just for entertainment. This was just a little bit of eye candy, a little bit of show and tell. Thanks again, Dirk Warning, for letting me show this guy on my channel. Please subscribe to Dirk Warning. That's going to be pretty much it today, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like. So check those out, and if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that metal complex logo right there and subscribe, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.